Hey, how you doing, IG? I just wanted to jump in here again. Had another great live this morning on my Facebook page, but I just want to jump in here and have a conversation about what we talked about. It had to come up with. It came from a question that was asked about this. The question was asked about, how do I know if I'm on the right path? How do I know whether I'm where I should be financially? How do I know what success looks like? And so we ended up having a great conversation about the whole thing of, what are the metrics that matter? Okay. I'm seeing Dean Jacobs is in the house. Say hi. Let me know you guys are here. This is cool. I'm still getting used to this Instagram live thing. So I do want to figure out how to bring someone on with me live so I can answer some questions and we can do some coaching live and do that. So that out. Whoops. I'll figure all that out one of these days. So, but if you have questions, let me know. No way. Travis Shields is on with me. Look at that. So we were having a conversation this morning about the whole idea of how do we know where we are financially? How do we know if we're on the right trajectory, right path? And this whole idea of metrics came up. Franco's in the house too, man. Oh my God, all my friends are coming in. Now I'm getting nervous. Hey. So, Here's the thing. If you're not measuring it, you ain't managing it. And if you ain't managing it, you ain't moving it. And if you ain't moving it, you ain't where you should be. That's the bottom line. All right? My English teacher would have my rear end for using ain't all the time. But what the heck? Hey there, Kate. How are you? So here's the thing. We do need to manage it. We do need to be able to measure it and manage it. And the question is, what is it? What is it? Well, let's talk a little bit about business. Let's talk about business first, and then we'll talk about you personally. What are the numbers that you might want to look at in doing this? And if you have questions, let me know. If you have something that you want to go through, let me know, and I'll try to figure out how to bring you on, and we can do this thing together. But the first thing that we talked about is this whole idea of what I do with a lot of my clients and the people that I work with is understand what your prime indicators are, what the prime indicators are. And what I mean by this is this. There's going to be one or two things that happen upstream in your business that when you manage them, it will set the trajectory for the whole business. Here's what I mean by this. I'll give you, for instance, from my life. One of the businesses that I have and have had is this whole idea of, valuing businesses, buying, selling businesses, and also litigating, being an expert witness on financial matters and that type of thing. And one of the things that I noticed is that as a CPA that was doing that, I had the opportunity to manage my business. I was the managing partner of a firm and all of that stuff. So, and this is part of the generate pillar of the affluence blueprint when we talk about it, because we're talking about how do you generate income and how do you do that. Here's the thing. What I realized is I didn't have to manage the cash flow. I mean, I did, but that was the byproduct of managing something else. I didn't have to manage the cash flow. What I needed to manage, believe it or not, was the number of calls. The earliest point in the line, I had to manage the number of calls that I had with attorneys. Watch this. We were watching the numbers, and what we found is that every single time, like clockwork, if my calls with attorneys went down, then 120 to 180 days from that time, our revenues went down. And when my calls with attorneys went up, 120 days to 180 days, my revenues went up. So I realized, let me just manage and measure the number of calls I'm having with attorneys, because then they're referring me more work, which is bringing in the revenues. Then we manage the cash flow to come in. And so the question I got for you is, in your business, what is that prime metric? What is the one thing that if we measured upstream would have a ripple effect downstream? Because Here's the bottom line, and this is a mistake that I think a lot of entrepreneurs make, is we get all caught up in the revenues. We get all caught up in the vanity metrics of revenues, the vanity metrics of building a business and saying, all right, I want to do a big launch, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, you don't. What you want is you want big profits. What you want is big cash flow coming to you. All right, because it's through that cash flow that you get to build your financial independence, your financial liberation, your affluent lifestyle, and it's the way you'll be able to fund your mission and your message and do things greater. We need to maximize and optimize that cash flow, and the way we do that is using prime indicators upstream and then bring that downstream. And so each business has its own. And you're going to have that in yours. So that's one of the things that I would look at. Now, what is a prime indicator? Well, there's 5 characteristics of prime indicators. And here's how I do this. When I start hiring people or doing anything with people, is they all have their own prime indicators. In other words, the metric that I am going to measure their success with that drives our success. And the first thing is that it needs to be part of a process. It needs to be part of a practice. It needs to be something that they are doing day in, day out as part of their job. And it is the very thing that we are measuring them on. Number 2, okay, so it needs to be part of a process or practice. Number 2, it needs to lead to the results that you want. In other words, it needs to be directly tied to certain results. Now, some people aren't directly tied to the bottom line. For instance, a social media person might not create profits for you, but what they do is their metric might be a following. Their metric might simply be engagement and downloads on a podcast. Those kinds of metrics that lead down the line to profits become important. And so that's number 2. Number 3, and this is a big one that a lot of entrepreneurs mess up, is that it needs to be individualized. In other words, if I have a metric, say someone is going to manage my social media and they have a metric they're measured against, I have one person that's responsible for it. One. That's one. If you give a metric to 2 people and say you're both responsible, you're going to get finger pointing at some point in the game. The bottom line is you make one person responsible. They can work together, but they are the responsible party. Until you allocate that out, then you don't manage by committee. You manage by delegation. So we're going to manage it that way. You're going to lead them. I don't like the term manage, but we're going to lead them by giving them and making sure that one particular person is responsible for each metric and not have multiple people responsible for a metric. That may be a department head, it may be a group head, it may be one person, okay? Then number 4, is that it needs to be measurable. Can I measure the metric? Because how do we know what success is? So we need to measure it. So it needs to be processed. It needs to drive results. It needs to be individualized. It needs to be measurable. And the last piece of this is it has to elevate the bottom line. It has to elevate the bottom line. In other words, it is going to drive profits in the long run. So that's what a prime indicator is. If it doesn't have those 5 characteristics, it's not a good indicator, and it's probably not going to help you with managing. So when I work with entrepreneurs, when we're working with their business to create their financial freedom outside the business, we need to optimize the business. We need to scale the revenue. That's part of the generate pillar of the affluence blueprint. I talk about that a lot. But this prime indicator process is what gets you to go from inconsistent revenues, inconsistent profits, stressful situation, inefficient situation, dysfunctional teams, lower profits, to consistent revenues, stress, I'm not going to say stress-free, stress less, efficient, effective ways, functional teams that are working together towards a common vision and higher profits. That's the game. Now what do we do outside the business? And this is the thing that we were talking about. What do you do outside the business? Well, then we look at some things outside the business, because here's the deal. There's three primary things that, from a wealth standpoint, I want you to think about. And the first is this, is that you need to know what your net worth is. I get it. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it might even be negative. All right. But until we know exactly where we're starting from, we don't know where we're going. We have no idea of where we're going. So we need to measure our net worth. Well, what's a net worth? It's your assets, which is basically what you own, less your liabilities, which is basically what you owe. Okay? So assets could be real estate, it could be cash, it could be investments. My wife thinks her shoes are assets, but I don't think so. All right? But I'll give it to her. But then the liabilities are what you owe people. Debts, credit cards, mortgages, and your assets need to be greater than your liabilities, and that's your net worth. What we want to see is year over year, quarter over quarter growth in your net worth. Now, let me clarify net worth. I think it's really important for you to look at your net worth through a set of glasses that make it usable to build wealth. We've got a great house here. I live in a beautiful area. I live right on the beach here in Laguna Beach. We listen to the waves at night. And I'm blessed. Okay? However, it's the worst financial investment I could have ever made from an investable asset standpoint. Why is that? All right? Well, it's because of the fact that the house doesn't earn me anything. The house doesn't do anything for me. It is an asset that is a dead asset in the sense that it's not creating cash flow. It's appreciating, but I'll never see the appreciation unless I sell it. Okay? So what I'm looking for is a growth in net worth of assets that can produce cash flow for you on a regular basis, because that's what's going to give you the freedom. That's what's going to give you wealth. So I want year over year growth in net worth. Second, we need to manage and understand and manage our inflows and our outflows. The cash coming in, the income coming in, and the stuff going out. All right? That means that we're going through our checkbook, we're going through our credit cards, we're going to look at things on a regular basis to try and figure out, do I need this? Maximize the cash flows, because that's what's going to build the net worth. Okay? And then the third element that I want you to manage is this: your savings rate. Okay? It's fine if you have cash in, cash out, but how much of it are you keeping? Too often we get so caught up in this whole concept of making money, and then I go and spend it on a lifestyle, and I got nothing to show at the end of the day other than possibly debt. We don't want to do that. So the question is, what's your savings rate? So from a business standpoint, prime indicators, make sure that you got them managed. And from a personal standpoint, you want to track your net worth on a quarterly basis. You want to see quarter over quarter growth, and you want to track your income and expenses to make sure that you're controlling those. And then from that, you want a growing savings rate. If you can get those things dialed in, if you can get your net worth dialed in, you can get your income and expenses controlled, and you're building that savings rate, you're going to be in good shape. We just got to give you some principles to make it happen in your world. We want to give you some principles from a wealth building standpoint and all of that to make that happen. In fact, I am doing a free masterclass coming up next week, March 11th, 9 a.m. California time. We're going to talk about the 5 principles for today's entrepreneurs to build affluence in their life and to give them lasting freedom. Join me on that. I'm going to go through the 3 pillars of the affluence blueprint. We're going to talk about the 5 principles that will drive your wealth. We're going to go deeper. It's going to be at least a 90-minute training with me. And then we'll talk about the next steps. What do you need to do next? How can I help you and do that? So if you want to do that, the link is in the bio, or just go to melabraham.com workshop, and I'll see you there. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick synopsis of what we covered this morning on my Facebook Live and all that. And but if you've got any questions or anything coming up, let me know. And if you want to come on live with me, which I have never done, I think you have to just slide down and then you request it, and then I can bring you on live and we can have a conversation. But I've never done this, so we'll figure that out. All right. I see some friends on here. Travis Shields, my friend, be well. I hope you're doing well, my friend. We got to catch up. All right. And Suzette and all of that. So, all right, y'all, you have an incredible day. I'm going to get back to it. I got another call coming up here shortly, but I wanted to jump in here real quick and say hey to y'all. Do me a favor. If you have questions, if you have things, DM me so we can bring you on, or I can answer it on one of my other lives. I just said DM me, send me the stuff, send me your questions. Let's have a conversation and let's rock and roll. All right. Talk soon. Cheers. Thanks. LaShawn's in the house. All right. Thanks, Joanne. You guys rock. Talk soon.